You see, one of the strangest things about human beings is how desperately we want to be understood, how we long to tell others everything about what's going on inside us. We want to unburden ourselves, to make sense of our feelings by pouring them into someone else's cup. And yet, paradoxically, the more we explain ourselves, the less peace we find. Because true peace, quiet, effortless peace, is not born from being understood, but from no longer needing to be. When you tell too much of yourself, you scatter your spirit to the winds. Every confession, every boast, every attempt to make someone see your truth is like throwing a pebble into a still pond. You break the silence that gives the water its clarity. And that silence, that inner stillness, is what peace truly is. So let us talk about 5 things, 5 aspects of your life, your being, that should remain sacred, untold, guarded not by fear, but by reverence. Not because secrecy is a virtue, but because silence is a sanctuary. The first thing you should never tell anyone is the full depth of your ambitions. Why? Because the moment you speak them, you invite the world to interfere. People will project their own fears upon your dreams, telling you what's realistic, what's foolish, what's possible. And slowly, without even noticing, you begin to doubt the song that was meant to be sung only by you. You see, the seed doesn't shout to the forest that it intends to become an oak. It simply grows, quietly, patiently, hidden beneath the soil where no one can trample it, because life, in its wisdom, knows that the early stages of growth must happen in darkness, and so should your dreams. When you speak of them too early, they lose their sacred energy. They become performances instead of prayers. Ambition, in its purest form, is a whisper from the universe saying, "This is what you might become." But when you turn that whisper into a speech, it evaporates. It's like trying to trap the wind in a jar. True ambition is not something you advertise, it is something you embody. Like a river finding its course, not by force, but by flow. So when the impulse comes to tell someone about what you're planning, pause. Let your actions speak instead. Because peace, my friend, does not live in the noise of what you might do. It lives in the silent unfolding of what you are already becoming. The second thing you should never tell anyone is the full depth of your goodness. There is a peculiar irony here. We live in a world obsessed with appearing kind, moral, generous, spiritual. But when goodness is paraded, it ceases to be pure. It becomes performance art. When you do something truly kind, the act itself should be enough. Telling others about it, even subtly, even with the best intentions, introduces a shadow, a quiet craving for validation. And where validation enters, peace departs. Imagine a candle lighting another candle. The first does not boast about the flame it has given, it simply burns. The flame is its own reward. But many of us feel an ache to be recognized for our kindness, as if goodness without applause were incomplete. Yet the greatest acts of love, the most luminous gestures of compassion, happen unseen. The mother who whispers a lullaby to her sleeping child, the stranger who pays for someone's meal and disappears before being thanked, the friend who listens without advice, without agenda, just presence. You see, goodness does not need witnesses. It only needs sincerity. When you speak too much of your virtue, you create a subtle separation between yourself and life. You begin to imagine yourself as the good one and others as less so. And from that division, suffering is born, because peace is not found in being better, it is found in being whole. So do good quietly. Let your kindness dissolve into the universe like sugar in tea, sweetening everything, claiming nothing. Because when your heart acts from silence, it touches eternity. But when it acts for recognition, it remains, trapped in time. The third thing you should never tell anyone is the full depth of your pain. Now, I do not mean you should hide your suffering behind a mask. To share what hurts is sometimes healing. But there is a difference between expression and exposure. Pain, when spoken too often, becomes a performance, an identity we wear like a badge. We start to live from it rather than through it. We cling to our wounds because they give us something to talk about, to be known for. And yet, the more we define ourselves by our wounds, the less we allow them to heal. You see, the wound is not who you are. It is simply where the light enters. If you keep reopening it to show the world, how can it ever close? Real healing happens in solitude, in quiet communion with yourself, like an animal retreating to the woods to lick its wounds in peace. It does not announce its pain. It simply rests until it can walk again. When you pour your pain into too many ears, it begins to lose its sacred lesson. It becomes diluted, trivialized, misunderstood, because others, however kind, cannot fully understand your suffering. They can only interpret it through their own. And so, when you carry a deep sorrow, hold it gently within you. Speak of it only to those who can hold silence with you, who will not try to fix it or judge it. Peace is not the absence of pain, it is the quiet acceptance of it. The moment you stop broadcasting your suffering, you begin to transform it into wisdom. The world is full of noise, everybody shouting their grief, their anger, their disappointment. But the one who suffers silently learns something the others do not, that even in pain there is a stillness, and in that stillness, a strange kind of beauty. So far we have spoken of ambition, of goodness, of pain. But there are two more secrets worth keeping, two more chambers of silence that guard your peace. And as we go deeper, I want you to notice something, the pattern. Every time you speak too soon, too loudly too, often you lose a part of your wholeness. It's as though the soul begins to leak through the cracks of conversation. To live in peace is to live contained, like a flame protected from the wind. Let us continue. The fourth thing you should never tell anyone is the full depth of your love. Love, when real, is a mystery, an energy that cannot be captured in words. The moment you try to explain it, you begin to shrink it, to tame it, to make it fit into the limited forms of language. We say, "I love you," but what do those words truly mean? They are like a map of a country that cannot be charted. The more you speak of love, the further you move from its essence. True love, whether for a person, a dream, or life itself, is not declared, it is lived. It radiates quietly, like the fragrance of a flower that does not shout its sweetness, but simply is. When you tell too much about who you love, or how deeply, you invite the world to interpret it, to gossip about it, to measure it, to compare it. And what was once sacred becomes public property. But love is not meant to be public. It is a secret dance between souls, seen only by the divine. It lives best in the space between words, in glances, in silence, in the ordinary moments no one else notices. Think of two trees growing side by side. They do not talk about their connection. They simply intertwine their roots beneath the soil. Their union is invisible yet unbreakable. Love that is constantly declared becomes like a song overplayed on the radio. It loses its magic. But love kept in the heart remains fresh, alive, eternal. So cherish your love quietly. Let it be the background music to your existence, not the anthem. Because love, when it does not need to prove itself, becomes infinite. And peace, my dear, lives wherever love is unspoken yet understood. The fifth thing you should never tell anyone is the full depth of your spiritual life. Now, this may sound peculiar, especially in an age where everyone wishes to appear enlightened, awakened, mindful, connected. But the very moment you begin to speak of your spirituality, to define it, to make it an identity, it slips through your fingers like sand. You see, the sacred is shy. It does not come when called by the intellect or displayed for the crowd. It arrives like a breeze through an open window, unannounced, unexpected, unpossessed. And if you turn to tell others, look at the breeze, it's already gone. Your relationship with the eternal, with the divine, with whatever word you choose for that great mystery, is meant to be intimate, private, wordless. It is like the silent understanding between a wave and the ocean. The wave does not need to remind the sea, I am part of you. It knows, it feels it in every motion. To speak of the sacred too much is to create distance from it, for speech implies separation. And so, when you find something holy within yourself, an insight, a mystical experience, a sudden peace in the heart, hold it tenderly. Do not rush to tell others what you saw, for the telling turns revelation into story. And the mind loves stories. It clings to them, believes them, argues over them. But the spirit moves in silence, where there is no story, only being. You may notice that those who truly understand life rarely speak much of spirituality. They laugh easily. They listen deeply. They seem ordinary, almost invisible. And yet when you sit with them, something inside you quiets, as if you are sitting beside a mountain or a river. They emanate stillness. Why? Because they have stopped trying to show their connection to the divine. They are the connection. So do not tell others the full depth of your spiritual experiences, your meditations, your visions, your inner revelations. Let them work on you from within. Let them change your eyes before you use your tongue. Because wisdom that is spoken too soon becomes doctrine, but wisdom that ripens in silence becomes life itself. Now, if we step back for a moment and look at these five, the silence of ambition, the silence of goodness, the silence of pain, the silence of love, and the silence of the sacred, we see that they are not really rules. They are simply invitations. Invitations to trust the quiet unfolding of your own existence. For peace, you see, is not the absence of conflict, nor the attainment of perfection. It is the art of not scattering yourself. You lose peace every time you abandon yourself to the noise of approval, to the craving of validation, to the illusion that your truth must be spoken to exist. But truth is, whether or not it is told, when you sit quietly, when you stop needing to be seen, life begins to reveal its own rhythm through you. The universe doesn't ask a flower to explain its color. It doesn't demand that the stars justify their light. Why then do you feel the need to explain your being to others? The oak does not announce, "I am strong," it simply stands. The river does not boast, "I am flowing," it simply moves. The sky does not say, "I am vast," it simply is. Perhaps peace begins when you too can simply be. You see, the world today is intoxicated with expression. Everyone wants to be heard, noticed, followed, validated. The irony is that in this constant effort to be someone, we lose touch with the great serenity of being no one in particular. To live without the burden of needing to impress or confess, to let your life speak instead of your mouth, is to rediscover what the ancients called the way. In silence, you begin to hear something far more beautiful than your own thoughts, the murmur of life itself. There is an old story about a monk who carried a precious bowl made of crystal. He treasured it deeply. One day, it slipped from his hand and shattered on the stone floor. The others gasped, but the monk only smiled. At last he said, "It has fulfilled its nature." What he meant was this: everything in life, even its breaking, is complete as it is. We disturb our peace only when we resist that. Completeness, when we insist that life should unfold according to our stories, our ideals, our need to be known. Silence accepts. It does not argue with the world. When you begin to live like this, keeping certain things sacred, unspoken, you notice something subtle shift inside you. Life feels lighter, quieter, clearer. You walk through the day with less noise in your head. The opinions of others lose their gravity. You no longer need to prove anything. And that is real power, not the power to control others, but the power to remain unmoved by the winds of their approval or disapproval. The person who speaks less of himself lives closer to his center, because in the end, your life is not a performance. It is a mystery being lived through you, and mysteries lose their fragrance when explained. So keep a few things untouched by words. Let the deepest parts of you remain nameless, private, whole. If you ever feel the urge to tell someone everything about your dreams, your goodness, your sorrow, your love, your awakening, pause. Take a breath. Feel the silence between thoughts. That silence is your oldest friend, the one who has never left you. It knows you better than anyone else ever could. And perhaps That is the great secret of peace, realizing that you do not need to be understood because you are already understood by the universe itself. You are not a stranger here. You are the breath of the cosmos playing at being a person. When you realize that, you stop shouting into the wind. You let life whisper through you. You live quietly, completely, beautifully. And in that stillness, you discover something miraculous. Peace was never something to be found. It was the silence you were avoiding all along.